At my daughter's wedding, in front of 200 guests, she screamed at me, "Get out! I don't want to see you, you wretched old witch." The entire church went silent. Every head turned to stare at me, the mother of the bride, standing there in my beautiful navy dress that I'd saved for months to buy, my hair freshly done at the salon, holding back tears that threatened to ruin the makeup I'd applied so carefully that morning. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It really encourages me to keep sharing these incredible stories with you all. Kindly let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing where my sweethearts are tuning in. The silence was deafening. 200 pairs of eyes staring at me. Family friends, David's wealthy relatives in their designer suits, my own sister's shocked face in the third row. The photographer lowered his camera. The string quartet stopped playing mid-note. Even the waiters carrying champagne trays froze in place. So I did exactly what she asked. I gathered what was left of my dignity, lifted my chin, and walked down that marble aisle toward the exit. My heels clicked against the floor like a countdown, each step echoing through the absolute silence of that grand ballroom. But what my daughter didn't know was that I had paid for everything. Every single thing. The $25,000 venue with its crystal chandeliers and imported marble floors. The $8,000 worth of white orchids that decorated every table. The $15,000 catering bill for food that would feed an army. The photographer who charged more than I made in 3 months. The band, the cake, the dress she wore. Everything was paid for with my money, my credit cards, my house as collateral. And when I walked out that door and sat in my car in the parking lot, I made one phone call that changed everything. She called me 99 times that day. 99 times. I watched my phone light up again and again, Emma's smiling face from last Christmas appearing on my screen over and over. I didn't answer a single call. Have you ever been publicly humiliated by someone you love? Someone you sacrificed everything for? Let me know in the comments. Now, sweethearts, let me tell you about my Emma. And before you judge the choices I made raising her, I need you to understand something about single mothers and the crushing weight of guilt we carry in our hearts like lead blankets. 26 years ago, when my precious Emma was born with those beautiful dark eyes and tiny fingers that wrapped around mine, her daddy took one look at the responsibility ahead and walked right out that door. Left me holding a 7-pound miracle, drowning in medical bills, and feeling like I'd failed at the most important job in the world before it even started. That night, sitting in my hospital bed with Emma sleeping on my chest, I whispered a promise to her tiny sleeping face. Baby girl, you'll never feel abandoned. You'll never feel like you're missing something. You'll never suffer because Mama couldn't keep your daddy around. Now here's the part that's hard for this old heart to admit. Sweethearts, I didn't just want to give Emma a good life. I wanted to prove to myself, to her absent father, to the whole judgmental world that I wasn't the failure he said I was when he packed his bags. Every sacrifice I made became a building block in the fortress of proof that I was enough. That one parent could be better than two if that one parent loved hard enough. I worked as a nurse at the county hospital. Lord knows I loved helping people heal and holding hands with scared families, and I picked up every extra shift they'd give me. I lived on 3 hours of sleep, gas station coffee, and sheer determination. But my Emma never went without a single thing her heart desired. Dance classes at Miss Patricia's studio downtown, I found the money. Piano lessons with that fancy teacher who charged $50 an hour, I made it work. Designer dresses for school dances while other kids wore department store specials. My baby girl sparkled like the princess I was determined to prove she was. When Emma got accepted to that prestigious university, the kind with ivy-covered buildings and a price tag that made my head spin, honey, I didn't hesitate for 1 second. I took out loans that had more zeros than I wanted to count, refinanced my little house twice, worked double shifts until my feet were crying for mercy, and lived on rice, beans, and the cheapest pasta I could find for months. But my girl graduated without owning a single penny, walking across that stage in her cap and gown like the queen I'd raised her to be. Sitting in those uncomfortable bleachers, watching Emma accept her diploma, I thought to myself, Sarah, you did it. You proved that love and determination could overcome anything. You raised a successful, educated daughter all by yourself. So, when Emma called me up with excitement bubbling in her voice to announce she was marrying David Wellington from one of those old money families with more wealth than some small countries, my heart just about burst with pride. Finally, my daughter would have the kind of life that proved her single mama had done everything right. This wedding wasn't just about Emma finding love. It was about 26 years of me proving I could raise a daughter worthy of the finest things in life. And that's exactly why I ignored every single warning sign that came marching toward me, like storm clouds. Because admitting Emma was changing meant admitting that maybe all those years of saying yes to everything had created something I didn't recognize. Have you ever given up everything for someone you love, only for them to turn around and treat you like you never mattered? Like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that will leave you speechless. Oh, sweethearts. The changes started so gradually, like water slowly eroding a riverbank, until one day you realize the whole landscape has shifted. Emma began making little comments about my apartment, the same cozy 2-bedroom place where she'd grown up, where we'd had Christmas mornings and birthday parties. "Mom, David's parents are coming over for dinner. Maybe you could spruce things up a bit?" she said one afternoon, looking around like she was seeing the place for the first time. Now, honey, my home was spotless. I've always believed a clean house reflects a peaceful heart. But suddenly, my comfortable furniture wasn't sophisticated enough for her new boyfriend's family. Then came the comments about my profession. And sweethearts, this one cut deep. "Maybe don't mention you're a nurse when you meet David's family," Emma suggested while we were shopping for an outfit for me to meet these important people. "Just say you work in healthcare management or something that sounds more professional." Now let me tell you something, my dear ones. I had been proud of being a nurse my entire adult life. I'd held the hands of dying patients, comforted grieving families, celebrated with new parents, and made a real difference in people's darkest and brightest moments. But my own daughter was suggesting I should be ashamed of the work that had paid for her entire life. The engagement party was held at David's family's country club, one of those places with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and waiters who moved like they were performing ballet. I spent my entire week's paycheck on a dress from the nicest department store I could afford, got my hair done at a real salon instead of my usual kitchen chair trim, and practiced walking in heels that pinched my feet something fierce. But when we arrived at that party, Emma pulled me aside with embarrassment written all over her face. "Mom, maybe you should sit with my college friends instead of at the family table. David's grandparents are very traditional about these things." Traditional. That became Emma's favorite word for rich, and I was learning that in Emma's shiny new world, her mama didn't quite fit the picture she was trying to paint. The party was torture, sweethearts. I sat at a table with a bunch of 20-somethings who were polite enough, but clearly wondering why their friend's middle-aged mother was sitting with them instead of with the other parents. Meanwhile, I watched my daughter laugh and charm David's family like she'd been born into their world, never once glancing over to make sure her mama was okay. But I told myself this was normal growing pains. Wedding planning is stressful, and Emma was just trying to fit in with her new family. It would all settle down after the big day, and we'd go back to being close like we'd always been. Oh, honey, how wrong I was. When Emma announced she wanted a $75,000 wedding, I felt my heart drop into my stomach like a stone into a well. I made $45,000 a year working full-time at the hospital. But Emma had already fallen in love with the venue. The same country club where David's parents had their wedding 30 years ago, the same place where I'd felt so out of place at the engagement party. "Mom, this is my only wedding," Emma said with tears sparkling in her eyes like diamonds. "David's family expects a certain level of elegance. I can't have a cheap wedding and embarrass him in front of everyone who matters." And there it was. Sweethearts, the knife that cut deepest. Everyone who matters. I looked at my daughter, this beautiful young woman I'd raised and sacrificed for, and realized that in her mind, I wasn't someone who mattered anymore. But what did this foolish old mama do? Exactly what I'd been doing for 26 years. I went to the bank the very next day and took out a loan against my house, the same house where Emma had taken her first steps and lost her first tooth. Then I took out another loan against my car. Then I opened credit cards, 5 of them, each one feeling like I was signing away pieces of my future. I was going to give my daughter the wedding of her dreams, even if it meant I'd be eating ramen noodles for the next 10 years. At what point should a parent stop sacrificing their dignity for their child's happiness? When does love become enabling? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The venue Emma fell in love with cost $25,000. That was more than half my entire year's salary for one single day. But when I saw Emma's face light up as she twirled around that grand ballroom, I couldn't bear to crush that joy. The flowers weren't just any flowers. They had to be imported white orchids. $8,000 for flowers that would be beautiful for one day and dead by the weekend. The catering alone was $15,000 for a meal that would be eaten in 2 hours. Each vendor meeting felt like stepping into a different world where money flowed like water. The photographer cost more than my car was worth. The band charged enough to pay my utilities for an entire year. Every time I hesitated, Emma would squeeze my hand and whisper, "Mom, this is my dream. You're the only one who can make it come true." By the time I added up all the contracts, I was $78,000 in debt. I would be paying for Emma's one perfect day for the next decade of my life. 3 months before the wedding, Emma called with more demands. Could we upgrade the flowers? Get a better band? Each small change added thousands to a bill that was already crushing me. I picked up extra shifts, sold my grandmother's jewelry, and borrowed money from my sister. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was watching my daughter transform into someone I didn't recognize. It's heartbreaking, watching someone you love turn into a stranger. How did you survive it? Share your story in the comments. 2 weeks before the wedding, Emma called about a delicate situation. "Mom, I need to talk to you about the seating arrangements. David's family has some concerns about you sitting at the main family table." "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Well, you're not married, and David's grandparents are very traditional. I just think it would be better if you sat with my college friends." My college friends were all in their early 20s. She was asking me to sit at the kids' table at my own daughter's wedding. "Emma, I'm your mother. I paid for this entire wedding. This isn't about money. This is about what's appropriate for the kind of wedding David's family expects." But Emma wasn't done reshaping me to fit her new life. Could I please not mention my job? Could I please let Emma introduce me instead of introducing myself? Could I please not tell any stories about Emma's childhood? The morning of the wedding, I woke up at 5 a.m. I had bought myself a beautiful navy blue dress and gotten my hair done for the first time in years. When I arrived at the bridal suite, I found chaos. Emma was sobbing because everything was going wrong. For a moment, it felt like old times, just me and Emma against the world. Then David's mother walked in, and everything changed. If you're feeling as frustrated with this situation as I am, sweethearts, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because what happens next is going to make you want to reach through the screen. Mrs. Wellington swept into that bridal suite like she owned everyone in it. "Emma, darling, you look lovely. I've just spoken with the photographer about the family portraits. For the formal family photographs, we'll want traditional groupings. Since Emma's family is smaller, we should focus on the formal shots with our side. These photos will be treasured for generations." Emma nodded eagerly. "Of course, Mrs. Wellington. Whatever you think is best. What about the mother-daughter shots we planned?" I asked. "Oh, we'll do some casual shots later, Mom, but we should focus on the formal family portraits first." The ceremony was beautiful. Emma looked radiant, and despite everything, my heart swelled with pride. During cocktail hour, I overheard Emma talking to David's cousins. "So that's your mother? She seems nice enough." Emma laughed coldly. "Oh, she's fine. I mean, she's just a nurse, you know? Not really sophisticated like David's family. Honestly, I'm just grateful David's family is so understanding about my background." "Well, at least she could afford to give you a proper wedding." Actually, she really couldn't afford it. She went into massive debt for this. It's actually kind of pathetic how desperate she was to impress you all. I felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating. When the photographer called for family photos, I watched Emma pose with David's family for 20 minutes while I stood aside, waiting. Finally, I approached. Emma, when are we doing our photos? Mom, you're being really inappropriate right now. This is my wedding day, and I need you to stop making everything about you. I just want to take some pictures with my daughter on her wedding day. You're embarrassing me. God, Mom, can't you just be normal for once? You always have to be the center of attention. Something inside me snapped. Emma, I have never tried to be the center of attention. I have worked myself to death so you could have everything you wanted. All I want is one photograph with my daughter. Well, maybe if you weren't so needy all the time, people would want to include you. The entire cocktail area went silent. That's when Emma said the words that changed everything. Get out. I don't want to see you, you wretched old witch. You're ruining my perfect day. Do you think Sarah went too far with what she did next? Or do you think Emma got exactly what she deserved? Drop your honest opinion in the comments. So I did exactly what Emma asked. I left. I walked out with my head held high, got in my car, and drove home. But on the way, I made one phone call. Hi, this is Sarah Parker. I need to cancel some services immediately. Every single vendor had my name on their contract, my credit card, my signature, because I had paid for everything. I need you to stop serving food immediately and pack everything up. Your services are no longer needed. Please pack up and leave. Stop taking photos. Delete any photos you've taken today. Please collect all the flowers and decorations, right now. By the time I got home, my phone was ringing. Emma's number. I didn't answer. Back at the country club, chaos erupted. The catering staff packed up dinner, the band dismantled equipment, the photographer deleted the photos, the florist collected centerpieces. Emma ran around in her wedding dress, trying to understand what was happening. What do you mean you can't serve dinner? I'm the bride. Ma'am, the person who hired us called and canceled. Your name isn't on any of our contracts. That's when Emma realized the truth. Her mother had paid for everything, and I had just taken it all away. Emma called 99 times. I sat in my living room watching my phone buzz and didn't answer a single call. The voicemails went from apologetic to desperate, to angry, to heartbroken. But I didn't answer. For the first time in 26 years, I was putting myself first. Was Sarah's revenge too harsh? Or did Emma deserve exactly what she got? Let me know what you think in the comments. The wedding reception became a disaster that the country club staff still talks about today. Guests were confused and hungry, wandering around asking what was happening. David's family was mortified beyond belief. Nothing like this had ever happened in their social circle. Emma spent her wedding night crying in her $1,000 dress, while David tried desperately to salvage what was supposed to be the social event of the season. The next morning, around 7 a.m., I heard a soft knocking on my apartment door. When I peeked through the peephole, there was Emma, still in her wedding dress, mascara streaked down her cheeks, looking like a broken doll that had been thrown away. Mom, please, she whispered when I opened the door. We need to talk. I looked at her standing there, this woman I had raised, sacrificed for, loved unconditionally for 26 years, and I felt my heart breaking all over again. But I also felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Respect for myself. I didn't invite her in. Instead, I stepped out onto my little porch and closed the door behind me. I'm sorry, Mom, Emma said, her voice so quiet I could barely hear it. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. I got so caught up in trying to impress David's family and fit into their world that I forgot. I forgot that you're the most important person in my life. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and I saw something I hadn't seen in months. I saw my little girl again, the one who used to tell everyone how proud she was of her mama, the one who used to brag about how hard I worked and how much I loved her. Emma, I said, my voice steady despite the tears in my eyes, do you have any idea how much debt I'm in because of your wedding? She shook her head, looking ashamed. $78,000, sweetheart. I mortgaged my house, maxed out credit cards, and borrowed money from my family. I will be paying for your one day of perfection for the next 10 years of my life. And you called me a wretched old witch because I wanted to take a photograph with you." Emma completely broke down then, sobbing like her heart was breaking. "Mom, I'll pay you back. I'll get a job. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll make this right, I promise." "It's not about the money, Emma," I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. "It's about respect. It's about remembering where you came from and who was there for you when no one else was. It's about treating the people who love you with basic human decency." What do you think happened next in our relationship, sweethearts? Do you think Emma learned her lesson, or was it too late? Share your thoughts in the comments. Kindly like, share, and subscribe to Granny Dorothy Stories. That conversation on my porch was just the beginning, my dear ones. Over the next few weeks, Emma kept coming by, sometimes with David, sometimes alone. She was trying to understand how she had become someone who could treat her own mother so cruelly. The truth was hard for both of us to swallow, sweethearts. In my effort to give Emma everything, to prove that one parent could be enough, I had never taught her the value of struggle. I had never let her face real consequences. I had created a young woman who expected the world to rearrange itself around her desires. Emma started therapy, which was hard for her to admit she needed. She got a job for the first time in her adult life, a real job with a paycheck and responsibilities. And slowly, month by month, she began paying me back. Not just the money, though that mattered too, but paying back the trust and respect she had destroyed. David, to his credit, was horrified when he learned how Emma had treated me. His parents, despite their snobby attitudes, were raised with enough manners to know that what Emma had done was unforgivable. The marriage survived, but barely, and Emma had to work hard to rebuild relationships on both sides. As for me, well, I learned something important too, sweethearts. I learned that being a good mother doesn't mean being a doormat. It doesn't mean saying yes to everything your child wants. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let your child face the consequences of their choices. I also learned to set boundaries. When Emma and David invited me to family events, I went, but only when I was treated with respect. When they asked for help, I helped, but only within my means, and never at the cost of my dignity. The hardest part was forgiving myself for creating the monster that Emma had become. For years, I had thought that love means never saying no, never letting her struggle, never letting her feel anything but perfect happiness. I had been so afraid of being the kind of parent who didn't provide enough that I became the kind of parent who provided too much. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love? How did it work out? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments, sweethearts. It's been 2 years since that disastrous wedding day, and I'm happy to tell you that Emma and I have rebuilt our relationship, but it's different now. Better in many ways. Emma has been faithfully paying me back every month, working at a job she actually loves in social work. Funny how helping other people taught her to appreciate the help she'd received her whole life. She's learned the value of a dollar earned rather than a dollar given. More importantly, she's learned to be proud of where she came from instead of ashamed of it. She tells people about her hard-working nurse mother who raised her alone. She introduces me with pride instead of embarrassment. She asks about my job and actually listens to the answers. David's family took longer to come around, but they eventually realized that their snobbery had nearly cost their son his marriage. Mrs. Wellington even apologized to me, though it was one of those fancy formal apologies that rich people give when they know they have to but don't really want to. As for me, I learned something beautiful about myself, sweethearts. I learned that I am enough, just as I am. I don't need to prove my worth by bankrupting myself for someone else's dreams. I don't need to accept disrespect in the name of love. I can be a devoted mother while still maintaining my dignity and self-respect. Emma's relationship with David has actually gotten stronger because she's become a better person. When you learn to treat your mother with respect, you learn to treat everyone with respect. When you understand sacrifice, you become capable of making them yourself. But perhaps the most important change is in how Emma sees me. She doesn't see me as an embarrassment to be hidden or a checkbook to be used. She sees me as the woman who loved her enough to let her face the consequences of her choices, even when it broke my heart to do it. Last month, Emma threw me a surprise party for my 50th birthday. Nothing fancy, just pizza and cake in my little apartment with a few close friends and family. But when she stood up to give a toast, she said something that made every moment of pain worth it. My mom taught me that love isn't about giving someone everything they want, she said, looking right at me with tears in her eyes. Love is about giving someone what they need to become the best version of themselves. Even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when it means watching them fall so they can learn to stand up on their own. What's the most important lesson you've learned about love and boundaries, sweethearts? I'd love to hear your wisdom in the comments. So was I too harsh on my daughter that day, sweethearts? Some people think so. They say a mother should forgive anything, accept any treatment, and sacrifice everything for her child's happiness. But I disagree. And I hope you'll understand why. Sometimes the people we love most need to learn that their actions have consequences. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable bad behavior, even when that person is your own child. Emma had become entitled, spoiled, and cruel because I had never taught her that love comes with expectations of respect and kindness. The wedding disaster was a wake-up call that saved our relationship in the long run. I learned that being a good mother doesn't mean being a martyr. It means teaching your children to be good people, even when that means letting them face uncomfortable truths about themselves. Love should never come at the cost of your dignity, my dear ones. Not from your children, not from your spouse, not from anyone. You can love someone deeply while still demanding they treat you with basic human respect. The most beautiful part of this whole story isn't the revenge, though I admit that felt pretty good at the time. The most beautiful part is the woman Emma became when she finally learned that privilege comes with responsibility, that love requires respect, and that the people who sacrifice for you deserve your gratitude, not your shame. Today, Emma and I have the relationship I always dreamed we'd have. One built on mutual respect, genuine appreciation, and love that goes both ways. She's become the kind of woman I'm proud to call my daughter. And more importantly, she's become the kind of woman who's proud to call me her mother. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that you deserve respect in all your relationships, then please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family. And tell me in the comments, sweethearts, was I right to do what I did? Or would you have handled it differently? I love hearing your thoughts on these complicated family situations.